really wanted to know what's really going on. So I started to write this Mortgage Matters a while ago, and it goes out to the entire real estate community by email, and it's a great way to market yourself because I don't sugarcoat what's going on. I'm very pragmatic. I tell people what are the problems that we're having in the financing world, what are the bright spots, how to help your buyers, and I try to be very informational. I think that type of marketing is probably the most successful. I also do some basic traditional print advertising in a couple of local magazines and newspapers, but really find that the targeted marketing that we do to the brokerage community and to our past clients is probably the most successful tool that we have.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like your real drive there is to become their trusted advisor in the communication that you're putting out. So not just a mortgage spruiker, but a trusted advisor on what's happening in the market.
Correct, and I try in my Mortgage Matters not to sell myself and come to Melissa because she's got the answers. I agree with you. I try to be, the source of the information, and that people can rely upon me to be truthful and pragmatic and not to sell something that I can't deliver. And my company as a whole uses it as a very successful tool.
Okay. Now, I just want to know, you've been at the top of your game for a very, very long period of time now. What goes on in your head? How do you keep the momentum up? How do you keep on writing these volumes year after year? What keeps you motivated?
Tuition, bills, my divorce settlement. I love what I do. I love problem solving. I love dealing with people. The business is a perfect fit for me. I'm very, attuned to what's going on in the financial markets and seeing where interest rates go and working with banks to help them to create new programs, bringing new banks into the area. And then it just goes back to the tuition, bills, and divorce settlement.
An excellent motivator.
Sadly.
Okay, and I'm sure there's going to be a number of questions from the audience. So just to remind the people of the audience, if you've got a question you'd like to ask, to bring it into the centre of the tables, and we've got some of the ushers collecting those, which I'll then read out in just a moment. Next question, Melissa, is what 3 key advices would you give to someone relatively new in the industry? And in fact, another way of asking that is, I'm going to actually move you to Australia, set you up in Sydney as a mortgage broker. You're straight off the plane. What would you do to get yourself going again, so that you build up your market?
I would be very careful to really learn and understand the banks and their underwriting guidelines and what you can and can't do in terms of lending, and make sure that I truly understand the process from front to back, and not just look at a rate sheet and try to sell something that I don't completely understand. I also would make sure that I get out into the marketplace. Remember that every referral, everyone has friends, they have family, and every transaction, here in New York, we have attorneys that represent the buyer, attorneys that represent the seller, real estate brokers typically on both the buyer and seller end, and that I would really focus on networking and getting to know people, and then asking the people that I meet as I do business if they'll introduce me to other people. For example, a program that we're running at our company, basically is I have brokers that will actually go take, real estate brokers to lunch. Like, for example, Greg does, Wednesday lunches with Greg, and he will go to, let's say, a friend of his at the Corcoran Group Real Estate and say, I'd love to take you for lunch. Can we invite 2 other brokers who I don't do business with and that you think would possibly be a good fit in terms of developing a relationship with me? And that's really important because you have to grow your book of business as quickly and as successfully as you can. And I think the last key piece of advice is that you have to be responsive, that you have to return your phone calls promptly, that you have to return your emails promptly, and that you have to really stay in touch with your client, because you're really only as good as your last loan. So that you really want to make sure that, especially as you're starting in a new marketplace or starting in the industry anew, that you want to make sure that your presentation is always the best, first shot out of the door.
Excellent. So the key things that I picked up there is to truly understand the marketplace you're operating in, and I think it's funny because that's exactly what Katrina Rowlands, who's one of Australia's top brokers, said on stage yesterday as well. Then to get out, start meeting people straight away and start asking for referrals and build up that network, and then just to be incredibly responsive. So the moment that a deal comes in, get onto it straight away. The beauty about that is, and I could see, you would come here and within, I'd imagine a few years, you'd be right up the top of the charts in the Australian broking circle from a zero start. And the beauty about this is that is such simple advice, and it's obvious that it'll work.
It's funny because people ask me, like, how do you do it? Like, what's the magic formula? What's the trick that you have that no one else has? And the answer is, it's really just hard work. There really is no magic behind it. It's really just creating efficient systems, sticking to them. I still use the same notebook system that I've used since the first day that I started my company, with writing down each and every one of my phone calls so that I know who I've talked to and how to get back to them. And really just, create a system that works, that's efficient, and stick with it.
Fantastic. So, Melissa, what are your future plans? Where to from now?
At the moment, I'm just planning on continuing to work. I don't really have an exit strategy yet, although I'm getting to the age where people tell me I should start thinking about it. I want to look to continue to grow my business. I think that coming from number one, it's hard to be anything else but that, and that I'm young, and that, or sort of young, and that I want to keep working. I love what I do, and I don't see myself really changing anything in the foreseeable future, other than trying to continue to grow and have my business thrive.
I think everyone can see that Melissa's a lady of huge passion and really loves what she's doing. So I wish you all the best with that. Now I'm just going to, we've been collecting some questions from the audience, so I'm going to start reading a few of those out to you now. The first one's from Glenn Williams, and the question that he's got is, and this is more one for the business owners, there's a number of people who own businesses with multiple brokers, is how do you pay your loan writers? Do you pay them a salary or a commission or both? And is this big team of loan writers that you've got a really profitable part of your business?
Well, you sure hope to make them profitable. My originators are compensated on a percentage of the commission that they bring in. A new originator who is starting the business will earn anywhere from 40 to 50% of the commission that they bring in. A top broker would make 65% of the commission. If I actually bring corporate business to my originators, I do pay them a reduced commission, but it's all commission based.
Okay, fantastic. And with those percentage splits that you pay, is that based on you providing pretty much everything for them, the office space, the phone, the fax, they pretty much just rock up and everything else is provided?
Unfortunately.
Excellent. I think it's I know in Australia there's a number of companies trying to provide those full services to a broker, and yet at the same time paying the broker out 70-80% of the commission. I think it's very, very hard for them to actually make a profit on the bottom line in that way. So it's interesting to see the kind of splits that you pay your brokers. Well, you have
to be able to make money, and the overhead costs are expensive, and there actually are brokers in New York and California that do pay at the 70 and 75% level, and I don't understand how they can break even on that.
Now, the second
you can't spend $1 twice.
Yeah, exactly. The second question is from Nick, who has chosen to leave his last name anonymous. How many loan products / lenders do you deal with in your market?
Was that a year ago or today?
How about both? I'd be interested in both.
A year ago, we probably had about, we probably had access to 100 different lenders with, hundreds of different programs. Since the credit crunch has occurred over the course of the past year. I would say that legitimately we're probably down to about 70 different lenders, but we're always bringing new lenders on board. And, there still are technically, 100 different types of programs, but really, especially in New York, most people are just looking at, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year adjustable, 30-year fixed, 15-year fixed. And then, can you do a no-income verification loan? Not very easy in New York anymore. And, I think that the loan programs really don't vary all that much from bank to bank. What does vary are the rates that the banks offer and their underwriting guidelines. Some banks are very stringent today, and a couple are actually still marginally flexible.
Fantastic. Next question is from Andy Brown from Perth, and his question is: have you utilised third-party? Have you got a business coach? Have you utilised third-party coaches since starting your business?
The answer is I actually have never done that. I guess I'm my own business coach and my own motivator. I think that what I do, instead of having used a business coach, is I sort of watch my competition and I look at who's successful and how they're successful. And not only just within my industry, but I also look at business people in other industries and read as much as I can about, how people succeed and try to, use them as role models in terms of how I, work and maintain and grow my business.
Okay. So with just on the reading, have you got a bit of a policy about how many books you try to read to improve yourself in that way, or ad hoc?
Oh, I'm Susie Online.
Next question is, sorry,
I read articles more than I read books. There's not a lot of time for me to sit down and read whole books, but my marketing person does something which is very effective for me and for my company, and that is every morning by about 8:30, she's gone through, all of the different online sites and periodicals and, blogs, and she, distributes all of these articles to my whole company, and so that when I get in the morning, I actually have a lot of information about what's going on and what's happening, and and it's very helpful to me.
Excellent. Question from Martin Beanland from Mortgage Choice. I hope I've pronounced his name right. How do you get the clients to commit to a specific bank and product so quickly?
The New York marketplace is a very fast-moving marketplace. Most contracts are not subject to financing contingencies, so people want to know that they have their financing as quickly as possible, and that's a real plus for me. So if someone has found an apartment, they want to know that they can get their mortgage as quickly as they can. And as it's impossible every day for you not to read a horror story about the mortgage nightmares and how banks are shutting down and how hard it is to get a mortgage, the faster that, I can prove to someone that I can get them the financing, the easier it is, to get them in the door immediately.
Okay. So it's really a stage of just saying, look, let's get the financing approved, and then if it's not exactly the right loan, we can always make some changes to that after the property's secured. Is that?
Absolutely, and we don't necessarily have to lock the rate in up front. And by virtue of the fact that we do so much of our work online and we can upload files to banks, that I can get someone approved quickly at one bank and I'll have all the information and can send it to another bank at no additional cost to the client. My goal is to get my client to be committed to me, and then we'll commit to a bank.
Okay, fantastic. Another question from an unknown source is, what sort of things are you doing with real estate agents to ensure continuity of referrals? Because I know from my own personal experience, it's quite easy to build a referral relationship with a real estate agent, but how do you, once you've got them on board, how do you ensure that they continue to feed you referrals on an ongoing basis?
Well, that's a simple question. The answer is that if you get that buyer approved quickly and you get them closed quickly and you get that broker to get their commission quickly, they'll come back to you with the next loan. We also work on developing dedicated relationships with real estate brokerage firms. A couple of them are financial, so that the management of those real estate firms are financially incented to make sure that their brokers send business to me and to my company.
Okay, thank you. We've just got a message here that in the role play there was no discussion about